the heart of many ancient forests, explorers have discovered something strange. Stone staircases rising abruptly from the ground, tall and weathered, yet leading to nowhere. Some are covered in moss, others cracked and broken, but none bear signs of ever being part of a larger structure. They simply stand there, alone, like monuments to forgotten gods. Legends whisper that anyone who dares climb to the top of these steps will vanish, never to return. Locals claim that at night, the staircases hum with a faint vibration, as though alive, as though calling. Hunters have tied ropes to their waists before ascending, only for the rope to come back severed, its end singed black as if burned by something not of this world. Authorities and scholars have tried to dismiss them as remnants of ancient temples or long-lost civilizations, yet no ruins surround them, no traces of walls, no foundations. Just the stairs themselves, impossibly clean in the wilderness, as if time refuses to erode them completely. And so, the staircases remain, silent, solitary, and waiting. It was in one of these forests that Jonathan Hale, a Western folklorist, found himself drawn. He had traveled across continents chasing myths, but none unsettled him quite like the rumors of the staircases in Asia. When he asked locals about them, their voices grew hushed, their eyes evasive. Some pretended not to hear the question at all. One old man, after much hesitation, told him, "The stairs are not built by human hands. They are doors that should remain closed." He would say no more. Jonathan pressed on, guided by both obsession and curiosity. The deeper he entered the forest, the more the air thickened. The usual chorus of birds, insects, and rustling leaves fell silent. It was as though the forest itself held its breath, watching. Then he saw it. Rising from a bed of roots and mist, half swallowed by vines, yet strangely untouched, stood the staircase. Stone steps, narrow and steep, climbing into the canopy before ending abruptly in empty air. Something in his chest tightened. The stillness was oppressive, the silence too perfect, as if the forest, the earth, even time itself recoiled from this place. Jonathan set his pack down and lit a lantern. Its glow seemed feeble against the looming structure. He reached out and touched the first step. The stone was cold, far colder than it should have been under the afternoon sun. And then, faintly, he thought he heard it, a whisper. Not from the wind, not from any living thing, but from the stone itself. Jonathan froze, his hand still resting on the staircase. The whisper was faint, almost inaudible, like a voice trapped deep within the stone. It didn't speak in words he could understand, but in a rhythm that felt older than language itself. Something primal, something calling. He pulled his hand back sharply. The forest around him seemed even quieter than before, as though everything had retreated farther away from him. His lantern flickered, the shadows stretched unnaturally long across the ground, twisting as though they belonged to something else. Jonathan scribbled quickly in his leather-bound journal. The stairs exude presence. Silence feels heavy. Possible psychological effect. Need further observation. Yet, even as he wrote, he could feel the pull. His eyes were fixed on the top of the staircase, which ended in midair. His breath grew shallow. The longer he stared, the more the world around him blurred. The trees, the mist, even the soil beneath his feet. All that remained sharp in his vision were the steps themselves, glowing faintly under his gaze. That was when he noticed something he hadn't before. On the fourth step, nearly hidden under moss, were faint carvings, symbols, twisted and curling, not belonging to any language he had ever studied. They seemed to writhe when his lantern's light touched them. A sudden gust of cold wind rushed past, extinguishing his lantern. Jonathan's heart hammered in his chest as he fumbled for matches in the suffocating dark. But even before he could strike one, he felt it. warm breath at the back of his neck. He spun around. There was nothing. Jonathan relit the lantern, his fingers trembling. The shadows crept back into the corners of the forest, but the silence lingered, pressing in against his ears. He stared up at the staircase once more. Rational thought screamed at him to leave, to walk away and never return. But something else, an insidious curiosity, a lure older than reason, drove his foot forward. The first step groaned beneath his weight, though the stone was solid and unbroken. He swallowed hard, clutching his journal tighter in one hand, the lantern in the other. His ears rang, as though the very air had shifted. The forest below him seemed to recede, as if the staircase lifted him into another world. The trees no longer looked familiar. Their silhouettes bent at impossible angles, their branches curling like skeletal hands. The mist thickened, swirling unnaturally, glowing faintly from within. Jonathan tried to steady his breath. He turned his gaze downward, expecting to see the ground not far below. Instead, his stomach lurched. Though he had only climbed a few steps, the earth already looked impossibly far away, as if the staircase stretched far higher than it appeared. Fear gripped him. He clung tighter to the lantern. Then he heard it again, the whisper, stronger this time. It seeped into his bones, not through his ears, but directly into his mind. Climb. Jonathan's vision blurred. His legs moved of their own accord, stepping higher. And behind him, just at the base of the stairs, a shadow began to form. Jonathan's breath quickened as he climbed. Each step seemed heavier than the last, as if the stone resisted his presence. His lantern swayed in his grip, casting distorted shapes across the mist. But he wasn't alone anymore. At the base of the staircase, something had taken form. A shadow, too dark, too solid to be born of lantern light, stretched upward. It had no face, no body, only the vague outline of a figure standing perfectly still. Jonathan froze, clutching the railingless steps for balance. His throat tightened. He raised the lantern, trying to pierce the distance, but the figure did not move. It simply stood there, waiting, watching. A cold dread settled into Jonathan's stomach. He scribbled hastily in his journal, though his hand shook. Entity manifested, stationary, observation, shadow independent of source. The words looked meaningless as soon as he wrote them, because when he glanced back down, the shadow was no longer at the bottom. It was standing on the first step. Jonathan nearly dropped his lantern. His legs trembled as he forced himself higher, the whispers in his skull growing louder. Climb, climb.
By the time Jonathan reached the 10th step, the mist had swallowed the forest entirely. He could no longer see the ground below, nor the treetops above. There was only gray nothingness in every direction, endless and suffocating. And the shadow was closer. Always closer. Jonathan's breathing rasped in his ears. He pressed his hand against one of the steps to steady himself, and felt it. Carvings. The same strange symbols he had glimpsed earlier, now etched into the stone, with uncanny precision. They pulsed faintly, glowing with a sickly light, like veins alive beneath skin. When his fingers brushed one, the symbol moved. The stone shifted beneath his touch, writhing like flesh. Jonathan yanked his hand back in horror, stumbling. The whisper grew into a chorus, overlapping voices chanting in a tongue he could not understand. His lantern flickered wildly, shadows stretching unnaturally long across the fog. He dared to glance back. The shadow was 3 steps below him now. Its shape was clearer, elongated limbs, its head cocked at a broken angle. And though it had no face, Jonathan felt its eyes burning into him. Panic surged through him. He turned and scrambled upward, the staircase vibrating faintly under his weight. The air thickened with an iron tang, sharp and suffocating. And then, from somewhere deep in the mist, a bell tolled. Slow, hollow, endless. Jonathan froze, clutching his journal to his chest. The sound did not echo. It devoured the silence instead, leaving only dread in its wake. Jonathan didn't know how long he had been climbing. His legs burned, every muscle screaming, yet the staircase stretched endlessly above him. There was no summit, no platform, no destination, only stone steps spiraling into the mist. The bell continued its slow toll, each strike reverberating inside his skull. With every sound, the carvings along the steps pulsed brighter, bleeding light into the fog. Jonathan paused, chest heaving. He opened his journal with trembling hands, writing frantically. These steps, they cannot end. Space is distorted. Ascension is a trap. But the ink began to move. Letters twisted and rearranged themselves, reshaping into the same unknown symbols carved into the stone. Jonathan gasped, dropping the journal as though it had bitten him. The book didn't fall. It hovered in the mist, pages flipping violently, as if unseen hands clawed through them. Then, with a sudden snap, it slammed shut. Jonathan's breath caught in his throat, and when he looked down, the shadow stood only one step below him. It was closer than ever, its elongated fingers twitching as if eager to reach. The mist curled around its body, swallowing its edges, yet revealing the void within.
Jonathan stumbled upward, his mind unraveling. He could feel the truth pressing down on him, suffocating. The staircase wasn't carrying him higher, it was dragging him deeper. The whispers returned. No, not whispers anymore. A voice, deep, resonant, filling the mist with its command. "Climb, Jonathan." His blood froze. It knew his name. The steps vibrated underfoot, each stone resonating like a drum. The symbols glowed so fiercely now that the fog seemed alive with their light, writhing like tendrils around his legs. Jonathan clutched his lantern tighter, though the flame barely survived the suffocating air. He shouted into the void, voice cracking. "Who are you? What do you want from me?" The mist shuddered. The bell tolled again, and the voice answered, not from below, not from above, but from everywhere at once. "We are the threshold. You have chosen the ascent. Now you belong to the steps." Jonathan staggered back, horror twisting his gut. His lantern slipped from his grasp, tumbling into the abyss. He expected it to vanish into the fog, swallowed like everything else, but he saw it, falling endlessly, the light spinning, shrinking until it became nothing. There was no bottom, no ground, only the climb. And then Jonathan felt it, cold fingers brushing the back of his ankle. He screamed. Jonathan's scream echoed into the mist, swallowed almost instantly. He kicked his leg back violently, but there was nothing, only the sensation of freezing hands lingering on his skin. He turned. The shadow was climbing. It no longer waited below, but moved with him, its limbs unnaturally long, bending at angles that defied human form. For every step Jonathan took, it gained two. Its faceless head tilted, as though savoring his fear. Jonathan stumbled, gripping the edge of the staircase. The stone burned against his palms, searing as if alive. He gasped, but kept climbing. His thoughts fragmented. If I stop, it will take me. If I fall, I'll fall forever. The voice in the mist returned, stronger, layered with countless echoes. Faster, the steps are endless, but the door awaits. Jonathan froze. The door. He remembered the carvings, the warnings. A door that must never be opened. Yet the voice tempted him onward.
Below, the shadow stretched upward, hand outstretched, its fingers nearly brushing his coat. Jonathan shrieked and hurled himself forward, sprinting up the steps with a desperation born of madness. But the stairs twisted. No longer straight, they curled in impossible directions, upside down, sideways, defying gravity. Jonathan ran anyway, even as his body screamed against the distortion. The shadow followed, silent, tireless. At last, through the shifting fog, Jonathan saw it. A massive steel door, sealed with glowing sigils, suspended in the void at the staircase's end. It loomed impossibly large, its surface cold and wet with condensation, though no rain had touched it. Jonathan staggered to a halt, chest heaving, sweat and blood mixing on his face. He could feel the power radiating from the door, a pull that threatened to tear his soul from his body. Behind him, the shadow stopped. It did not advance. It only stood, waiting, as if the threshold itself had bound it. Jonathan turned back, his voice shaking. "Is this what you wanted? For me to open it?" The voice in the mist surged like thunder. "Yes! The door must open. Through you." His knees buckled, his journal pulsed with light at his side, the pages quivering against the windless void. Jonathan grabbed it desperately, flipping through until he found the last entry, the one he hadn't written. Words scrawled in jagged ink stared back at him. "The one who climbs will be the key." His hands trembled. The shadow leaned forward, silent, waiting. Jonathan pressed his forehead against the steel, the symbols glowing brighter with his touch. And then, the sigils flared like fire. The air cracked. The door began to move. The steel door groaned as it opened, every vibration echoing through Jonathan's bones. A sliver of light spilled out, not warm or welcoming, but pale, cold, and endless. It cut through the mist like a blade, revealing nothingness beyond. Jonathan's breath caught. It wasn't a room. It wasn't a world. It was emptiness, a vast void that seemed to breathe. From within, whispers poured forth, thousands, millions, voices tangled together. Some begged, some screamed, some laughed in madness. Jonathan clutched his head, falling to his knees. His thoughts dissolved beneath the sound. But in that chaos, one voice rose above all the others, clear and commanding. "Step through." His body moved without his will. The shadow no longer chased. It knelt at the threshold, bowing like a servant to its master. Jonathan staggered forward, his hand brushing the edge of the doorway. The steel burned, but the void pulled harder. As he leaned in, he glimpsed faces, distorted, writhing in the darkness beyond, mouths open in eternal screams. His own reflection stared back at him, twisted, eyes hollow. Jonathan screamed, "No!" But the void screamed louder, and it swallowed him whole. Silence. When Jonathan opened his eyes, he was standing once more on the staircase. The mist was thicker, heavier, pressing against his chest. His journal was gone. The door was gone. Only the stairs remained, endless. He looked down, no bottom. He looked up, no top. Just an infinite spiral vanishing into the void. A sound echoed, steps, but not his. From somewhere above, something was descending, From somewhere below, something was climbing. Jonathan stood frozen, caught between them. His heart thundered. He tried to scream, but no sound came. And then he realized. The shadow was no longer behind him. It was within him. His hands moved on their own, his feet stepping upward once again, as if compelled by an unseen hand. With every step, his body felt less his own. His skin darkened, his vision bled into black. The whispers returned, no longer distant. They were inside his skull. They were his thoughts. The last trace of Jonathan faded as the mist swallowed him. Another shadow had joined the staircase. The steps remained, waiting for the next soul to climb. The forest grew silent again. The mist curled low, hiding the ancient stone steps as though nothing had ever happened. But the staircase was still there, waiting. They say if you listen closely on a cold night, you can hear footsteps echoing in the fog, endless, restless, never reaching the top. Some believe it's Jonathan, still climbing, trapped between worlds. Others say it's the shadow, searching for its next host. And perhaps, one night, it won't just be an echo you hear. It will be footsteps right behind you. If this story sent chills down your spine, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another terrifying tale. This is Dark Whispers, where the shadows speak and the stories never end.